Hi everyone, thank you for joining us. My name is Bhaskar Natarajan. If you're new here and you have not subscribed to this channel, please do subscribe to this channel. Um, if you are regular visitor on many of these sessions, you know that I talk about various issues which are related to learning, leadership, as a lifelong learner, what one could be curious about. And you also know that I bring experts from fields which are diverse in nature, who are uh, subject matter experts in that area, who have done that for many years and they know what they're talking about. One such person I have with me is Vish. I got the privilege of knowing Vish way back in 2007 and we kept in touch. Hi, Vish. Thank you so much at the outset for agreeing to be part of the show. We are a young fledgling outfit where we have learners from across the globe who are interested to be a better version of themselves. So we are in this quest of how can I be a different and better person, and how do we elevate our self to higher platform and be to live a life of purpose and be of service to others and especially humanity at large. So in that category, I see you as someone who have decades of experience, having worked in various national and international organizations, geographies. You have also traded places with many people who are expert in these areas. You moved from one area of expertise to another. You are a lawyer by profession, and you moved into learning and development, and now leadership. And you're a coach, and you're a holistic coach at that, and a business consultant, founder of Nivriti Associates. So various avatars that you are donning. So welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here. And today we are celebrating your book, How to Make Learning Enjoyable and Fun. So as you can see, the book is on the screen. Uh, the design is very unique. I understand from the contents of this book that it is designed by one of our friend's daughter, right?
Yeah.
Mr. Sanjay Devudu's daughter. So, with that note, let's start this conversation. Could you share a bit about yourself, your journey, and where are you right now?
First of all, thanks a lot for inviting me, and it's always a pleasure to talk to you, Bhaskar. And yes, you mentioned that our association goes back in 2007. It has always been a pleasure talking to you, interacting with you, as well as learning from you. So I would call myself as a learner. So learning is a continuous process. Though I have been in industry for many years, many decades, but still, you keep learning new things. And of course, as most people will know, the last 1.5 to 2 years was a different learning experience for all of us. Just to since you asked me my learning journey, I just wanted to let you know that yes, I started off as a lawyer, as a legal profession. I didn't practice law, but I went into industry. Started as an investment banker, moved on to consulting and HR because I started liking the profession. Because right from my school and college days, I used to attend a lot of training seminars and workshops back in the 70s and 80s. So that inspired me. The people who speak, the faculties inspired me that, okay, let me also get into that. So I changed my profession after about 12 years in investment banking, where I also doubled up as head of legal as well as corporate secretarial and company affairs. Then moved on to HR, worked with different industries and different roles in HR, predominantly learning and development. And sometime in 2017, I decided, okay, let me start working for myself after putting about 30 years. And I founded Nivriti Associates. Nivritti Associate is a consulting firm, a learning firm, and the reason why we also named it as Nivritti is because in over the last many years, I realized that most of the leaders, most of the business people, whenever they have any specific challenge or objects to be achieved, they just jump into action. Most people don't think, they don't communicate to themselves. So the nivriti, the ni basically stands for internalizing your thoughts, in inward communication, and the vritti is basically going deeper, thought of the thoughts. So the whole idea was to help people to think, and they will come out with a solution themselves. Because as adults, there is no point in teaching them, as a coach. So we only have to facilitate. So all we have been doing is we are helping business leaders to help themselves. That's Nivritti. We have a group of 5 people who founded this from different areas of expertise, from quality, from finance, from learning and development, as well as from HR. That's about Nivritti.
Nice. This reminds me of this concept called meta learning. How do I learn to learn? Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And since I know you for quite some time, Vish, and you're one of the early, uh, influencer in my life to bring in concepts of neurolinguistic programming. I vividly remember the workshops that you conducted for us, the certification program that I was part of. Each and every activity and the kind of deep learning that you took us through is really fresh in my mind. To this date, I keep using some of these techniques. You made the learning so enjoyable and fun. It's still fresh in my memory even after a decade or so. So thank you so
That
much for.
that is fabulous. In fact, not everybody remembers. So this is something unique about you also. Yeah.
So when I read this book, How to Make Learning Enjoyable and Fun, many of those concepts that I learned in the classroom and applied on work as a performance consultant, when I started traveling on behalf of the team to various geographies, met people from various cultures, I realized that all of us are same, having different external appearances.
Hmm.
Human behavior is all through very uh, intriguing, uh, fun to work with, and when we introduce people to their own learning capability, they are so excited, right? So many techniques that you point out in this book is commonly available. However, the way you have weaved it, the flow that you have brought into this small, simple, yet powerful book with just 159 pages to be exact. Yeah, 153 pages to be exact. It's phenomenal. How did this idea of writing a book, uh, came into you, and how long it took for you to realize this?
Okay, that's a very good question. Of course, when talking to Bhaskar, I can expect that he will ask a lot of questions. Well, since 1980, I got my first exposure to neuro-linguistic program was in the early 80s, when one of the faculties from UK and the US had come to facilitate sessions. That was my college days, so I didn't understand anything. So over a period of time, I started understanding. And again, in the 90s, there was another two gentlemen who had come and presented this program. That's when slowly the ideas started entering my mind. Then I realized that, hey, these are all some tools and techniques which we use naturally, like you mentioned. Only thing is, we don't know how to use it, how to strategize it, how to put it into practical use. So that's when I started learning neuro-linguistic programming. This was when the developer of NLP, Richard Bandler, had come to India in 1997. Of course, prior to that, at least four of them had come. I did learn in bits and pieces. But when he came, I just learned it. Of course, I didn't understand anything for the first 3 days. And then again, I had to learn. Then I did my master's, and then I did the trainers, because there are three levels. So the idea of penning the book came sometime in the year 2005. So I wanted people, the layperson, to understand NLP in simple words without any jargons. So I wrote the first paragraph in 2005. So, and it has taken me that long because sometime in 2004, I had made a simple brochure on this, how to make learning fun for boys and girls. So I approached few schools in Hyderabad. I had moved to Hyderabad from Mumbai. So one of the principals of a very famous school in Hyderabad called me and said, "Hey, it would be better to uh, do this session for teachers rather than students, because you will not be able to reach as many children as possible, because through the teachers you can reach." So I did a 2-day workshop on how to make learning fun, exactly the same title. Then I learned over a period of time, over the next 2 3 years, for 450 teachers participated. That is when this idea came. By the time it was 2005, so I wrote the first paragraph, and as you know, that was one of my first books. I was also lethargic, so it is human to be lethargic. I can admit. So it took some time to write the second paragraph, third paragraph, and then it has taken that many years now, because every time I used to write, then I used to correct myself. Oh, this is not. Let me learn some more. So it took that much time, and I wanted to basically share some simple tips and techniques in a book form without any jargon, so that parents as well as teachers know how to handle children. It is not that parents and teachers cannot handle, because it's a natural instinct, but still there are some tips which could help them to enhance their experience. That is the reason I thought I'll come out with the book, if that answers your question.
Absolutely. So time is all relative, Vish. And I recall a quote by one of the American president. There's a debate on who said this, but the essence is, if you ask me to speak for an hour, I'm ready now. If you want me to speak for 10 minutes, I need a week time to prepare. So
Well,
to come out with a concise book, it requires a lot of time. And I can see it, the way you have condensed it. Beautiful. And let me come to this important aspect of who is this book for. So as a parent, I could resonate with it. As a trainer, as a coach, I could resonate with it. And I'm sure all the teachers out there could resonate with it. Counselors and people who are in the business of helping people in a broad sense, I think all of them can relate to it. Who do you have in mind, or whom did you have in mind at that time while writing this book? Who is this book for?
okay, that's a good question. Well, it caters to everyone, predominantly parents, as well as the teaching profession, because this idea came to me after I did the workshop for the school teachers. So it was both teachers and parents. Then I later on found out that these techniques can be used by coaches, by facilitators, by counselors, and by anyone who wants to teach a technique to their team. In business leaders, if they want to teach or motivate their team, they could also refer this book. So predominantly teachers and parents, because teachers are also parents.
Right. So I would really urge people who are watching this to go out on Amazon and reserve a copy for yourself before it gets sold out. And there are a lot of nuggets in terms of how do I handle practical problems in life. So one of the problem which which I would like to bring it up is, how do you handle slow learners, especially children with specific learning difficulties? And you talk a great deal in terms of tips, techniques, and tools for people who are in this profession. So, could you throw some light on that, and how would how one can approach this challenge?
Okay, thanks, Bhaskar. Yeah, before I begin, so the slow learners definitely have a challenge. So definitely you can refer to the books. There are a lot of tips and techniques. But before that, I would also suggest and request you to uh, go to your respective medical, the doctors, the special educators, because they are technically trained to teach you how to deal with the slow learners. So, in addition to that, what this book shares are those simple tips and techniques. Because as a parent, see, we had also experience with a not so normal child, slower than the slow learner. So I realized that, okay, if we are able to manage, why not share some of our experience and techniques also? And I started using neuro-linguistic programming techniques on myself and with my child. So that was one of the starting point. Again, coming back to slow learners, see, every child, whether it is a slow learner or a normal learner, they have specific learning strategies. Now, in a class of 40 or a 60, there may be some slow learners, though they might not have been branded or they might not have been administered an IQ test, but still there could be slow learners. Because what happens is many parents, if they have slow learners in one of their children or child, they refuse to accept that their child is a slow learner. So they put them in a normal school, they put them along with other children, and then it becomes very difficult for that child to compete and cope. Some of the teachers are able to realize it, some of the teachers are not able to realize it. So they have a specific area of interest. So they need, see, one of the technique is to have a lot of patience with them. And if a normal child learns in 5 minutes, it could take 10 minutes. So what the book says is, what I have written is, if it is a slow learner, sit with him or her, find out how they wish to learn. For example, if you are teaching a normal child 2 plus 2 is equal to 4 and they understand, you may have to find a different ways of putting 2 plus 4, 2 into 4 to the slow learners. Maybe you will have to use certain things, or you have to use some materials or certain items.
True. In fact, slow learners and people with learning difficulties, the number of such students, when you compare with the general population, and the percentage as well, is increasing these days. Or awareness about need for special education or special approach to such students is also increasing parallelly. I know a friend of mine who enrolled into a master's level program on how to handle learning difficulties and learning disabilities. Uh, Outwardly, physical appearance wise, these learners look normal. However, their capacity to learn and also to apply those learning into daily life is remarkably different from the normal child. So as a parent and child, sorry, as a parent and teacher, one need to be very empathetic and apply some of the techniques which you are outlining here in the book, Vish. And as you rightly said, of course, in conjunction with a practitioner or under supervision of a qualified expert, these could be applied. However, in a general population, a teacher could benefit from some of these, right? Could you give one or two examples
Yeah,
which
yeah. So I was about to say that.
yeah.
See, let us take an example of a teacher teaching geography. Okay, a normal child, or maybe he or she will learn when the teacher just teaches. Okay, but a slow learner may have a different strategy. So the teacher might have to get up and show a picture, or show the picture of a globe or the map to make them understand. So they know. Otherwise, they might not understand. Number one. And number two, an educator have to invest an extra time to learn about the slow learners in case she or he definitely wants them to succeed. So a lot of examples work with slow learners. Uh, uh, as most of you know, we all communicate to ourselves as well as to others through different modes of communication. Some student like to hear better. Some children like to see and then learn. And while some children, in addition to seeing and hearing, a teacher or a parent need to go near the person and make the person understand, take the person, hey, do it. With experience, they learn. So, an education provider has to use all the techniques. We don't know which will work with whom.
True, true. So, thank you, Vish. In fact, there are some questions on the chat window. One is, what is the title of the book? And illustrates author once again. So, what you see on the screen is a screenshot of the book, How to Make Learning Enjoyable and Fun, Practical Strategies for Teachers and Parents. And author is Mr. Vishwanathan. We call him fondly as Vish. And please do get on to your favorite bookstore like Amazon, and is available out there. Vish, you would like to tell people how to access your book, where to get it?
Yeah, see, as of now, it's available in Amazon. It is published by Authors Press Group, New Delhi. So all you have to do is go to Amazon in India, of course, books. Then just write how to make learning enjoyable and fun. You will get the book. Then you can just order a copy. It's as
Okay,
easy as that.
thank you. So now let's talk about students themselves. If I'm a learner, I'm in a school or a college or a lifelong learner, what benefits I could derive from this book?
Okay. Well, see, as a student, see, whatever technique that I mentioned for the teachers to reach the child, the students can put himself or herself in that place and then learning. Now, as a student, see, for example, suppose I am a student, I might not be aware of how I learn. At a subconscious level, I will understand, but at a conscious level, I will not know. Somebody else has to tell me that, hey, this is how you learn. You learn, or by observing, people can tell. So when a student reads this book, he or she will be aware that, hey, this is how I am learning. Okay, this is a different way to learn also. So that is how the student learns. Because what happens is, at a conscious level, we don't know what goes on. Like when I used to do a therapy, I used to have therapy session with children also with learning difficulties. This happened long back in the north of India. So a child, a student, was very weak in history and English, but he was good in math. So the parent put him in a tuition class, a coaching class. There he fared well. So, but still, the father wanted to know why he was not faring well in the school. So I had a session with him. So I realized that he used to have a different experience with the history teacher and the English teacher way back when he was in the third standard. So, because of that experience, his learning ability also somewhat went into the background. So this I found out only when I put him in a trance at a subconscious level. So what happens is, only when he was in class 9, when I met him, he realized what went wrong. So sometimes students themselves don't know how they are learning and why they are not able to learn well. So this book basically helps them to know where their learning strategies are, what kind of person are they, what type of communication channel they use. For example, suppose I like to learn through seeing rather than hearing. I might not know at a conscious level unless I see it.
True, true.
So this book is
And
an eye
parents,
opener.
yes, absolutely. And you have written in a style where I can start anywhere in the book and then derive value out of it. It's not a novel where I have to read from cover to cover. I can dive
Not
in
at all.
any area. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, you just have to whenever you have any challenge as a parent or as a teacher, you just open any page of the book, you will find an answer.
And I found one common thing where a parent, a teacher, a learner, or a student, or a counselor, facilitator, all of them could derive tremendous amount of value is on habits. You talk about how to handle a shift in behavior, how to make it sustainable, and so on. So, could you talk about how do we acknowledge what are the issues with respect to behavior, and as a parent, how do I address that?
Okay, that's a very good question you asked. See, one important thing I learned over the last so many years after learning neurolinguistic programming also is that every human being behaves for a specific reason. Every behavior has an intention behind them, right? See, for example, smoking is a behavior. So when you ask a person why does he smoke, he says, I feel good. When I take a puff, I feel good. So the feeling good is their intention. Now, if you can give the same feeling with something else, then that person might stop smoking. Similarly, with children, every student, every child has a certain behavior. Why only student? Parents also have behavior. Teachers also. We all have this behavior. So when your child behaves in a certain way, the first thing what you need to do is acknowledge. See, every human being likes to be acknowledged. Okay, you are behaving fine, I acknowledge. Now, then let me find out why did you behave that way? Instead of immediately reacting. So what happens is most parents, most teachers, most of us react. So the book has a technique whereby instead of reacting, how do you respond? There are certain quiz mentioned there. So when you do the quiz, it tells you what kind of person you are and how do you actually have to acknowledge the behavior. So to coming back to your original question, every behavior needs to be acknowledged, and we need to realize that every behavior has an intention. Find out what is the positive intention behind the behavior. For example, you are a parent. When your child is doing something which you don't like, you shout. So shouting is a behavior. You scream in your loud voice. That's a behavior. Now the child will not understand why we are shouting. The child will start crying, or he will stop talking to you. So you have to basically tell yourself and tell the child that this is the reason why I am shouting. Then tell yourself and ask yourself, can I find a different alternative to shouting? So acknowledging is important. Does it answer your question, Bhaskar? The reader.
Yes, absolutely. Every
Okay.
behavior has a intention and a purpose. We need to figure out what is it all about. So
Correct.
now, let me move to the next, segment of our conversation, where parents often worry about career choices made for their children. Either they get overly involved by giving suggestions and direction on what to choose and what not to choose, or they become very hands off in making those choices. So, in your book, you talk about how do students react and how parents can support them in identifying their areas of interest, right? So, are there any tips and techniques for parents that they can derive from this book, in your view, to handle this career discovery session or career discovery for their children?
Okay. So I have given them a complete script for parents and teachers. How do you facilitate them rather than telling them? See, most parents and teachers, uh, I don't exclude myself. Also used to be like that. Sometimes I do. We want to impose our views on them. This is the career you have to choose. This is good to you. This is good to you. This is bad to you. Now we fail to ask them what do they want. or find out what are their capabilities. Because see, every children, like for example, a school of 40, a class of 40, all the 40 may not have capability in the same way. Some people may be capable in xyz subject, some people may be in different subjects. So we need to ask them, find out what do they want, what are their interests, and then act as a coach. Then you are a coach, you will know that, and I'm sure some of them are also coach who are seeing where a coach is at. What does a coach do? The coach doesn't tell what to do. The coach asks a question of what do they want, and based on the answer asks another question and keeps refining till they find out what they want, and then if need be give a suggestion. The reason why I'm using the word if need be, because by the time you ask 3 or 4 questions, the child or the other person will realize what they want and you will also get an answer. There is no need to keep telling, because most parents are obsessive or possessive and they think that they are doing good. Of course, as I said, this is again goes back to your earlier question. Every behavior has a positive intention. The parents also behave this way because they have an intention behind it. Of course, all parents and teachers have fantastic intention, but only thing is we also need to know how to facilitate the thought process. When I was introducing Nivritti to you, I mentioned to you internal communication and enable people to think, the thought of the thoughts. So the book has a script, a complete script, whereby it tells you how to enable the thought process of the student and the child by asking specific questions.
True, true. And as a teacher or as a facilitator or a trainer, how does one kindle that spirit of learning? There are few techniques that you talk about in this book. Could you share some with our audience uh, that will help them to find out more by reaching out to this book?
Sure. Now, I just want to share one or two technique in case you are driving, you will not be able to do. You will have to park your car and then do it. In case anybody is listening, so you have to find a place to sit and then do it. Uh, First and foremost, we need to learn how to become flexible. So flexibility in terms of behavior, because what happens is we will be thinking that for the last so many years I have been adopting this approach and has given me this result. So I will continue to adopt this approach. This may not work. Suppose you are a teacher teaching students of class 7 or 8. This year you have adopted an approach and you have succeeded. But you may not be able to adopt the same approach next year because the students are different. It might work with some, it might not work with others. So we have to learn to be flexible first. So let us do a small exercise. I want all of you to fold your hands or cross your arms. Of course, I have given about more than 7 or 8 exercise. So one exercise I thought let me share it with you. I would like all of you to cross your arms. Okay, great. Now release it and cross your arms this way. Like for example, earlier it was this way. Put the right arm first and the left arm underneath in a different way. If it was this way, now it is this way. And think how it feels. Some of you may be feeling comfortable, some of you may not be feeling comfortable. Bhaskar, how do you feel? This way or this way is
Since
better?
since I've done this long ago and I keep doing this exercise, I feel comfortable.
Fantastic. So what happens is, see, this is one way of doing it. This is another way of doing it. So first, you have to keep this in mind that there is a different way to do things. Is there a written or a spoken rule that you have to fold your hands only this way? No, it can be this way also. Now, what happens is the process goes this way. The neurons in the brain cells, it takes some time to accept a new behavior pattern. It takes about 20 to 28 days as per the psychology. So you have to keep practicing it. You have to keep doing it. So one of the technique that I teach is, in the book also I mentioned, is learning to be flexible. One more technique, which
We got a response from one of the audience saying uncomfortable.
uncomfortable, right?
This
Vinod Kumar.
exercise,
Okay, okay.
in response to your question, Vish,
What does he say?
not comfortable.
Yeah. So initially you will not be comfortable. So over a period of time, for the next 21 days, without a break, you fold your hands, arms this way. So from the 22nd day onwards, whether this way or this way or this way, doesn't matter. Like how Bhaskar does. So you can fold your arms this way or this way. Now this is an activity to remind you that one particular approach need not work always. You will have to keep changing your approach. Similarly, now a student is scoring 30 marks or 40 marks instead of the passing mark of 50 throughout the classes, throughout the years. Basically, because the student is adopting one approach always. So, as a teacher, as an education provider, you will have to help the student to adopt a different approach to get better results. If you adopt the same approach, you will get the same results.
So it's easier said than done, Wish, as we all know. You gave a acronym of for fear. It's really etched in my mind. So there's a fear of trying something new, right? I had got results in the past by following this path, and it's a safer route for me. There is no risk at all, and I could reproduce similar or same result over and over again. Why should I try a new path? What if I fail? What if I don't get even this result, and I become a ridicule in front of people around me? That fear, how do we tame that fear?
Yeah, see, so fear, in case I do not know who created the acronym long back, I just took it. It is fear is nothing but false evidence appearing real. FEAR. Now, you just think about it. Is it really a fear? A fear of failure? Fear of failure is not failure. Fear of falling is not falling. It's just it's a fear. Maybe 20 years back, 30 years back, somebody would have planted this fear story in you. That it continues. And the same story you are sharing it with your children or the students. That keeps on continuing it. So fear, there is no such thing as fear. It is just an imagined fear. So that you have to take it out from your mind as well as your students' mind. And of course, like so many authors, so many great people, the famous people have mentioned about failures. So there are no failures. You only get a feedback. Of course, in the examination system, you have a mark, 35 marks. If you don't get 35 marks, you are considered to be a failure. But ask yourself, is a student really failed if he gets 30? So you have to encourage the person in saying that, well, you have not failed. You have succeeded in generating 30 marks. To get 35 marks, you have to adopt a different approach. So you need to remove that fear. Fear is just imaginary, false evidence appearing real. FEAR.
So this begs a question: as a helping professional, how do I get into a learner's world and build rapport with them? If I'm a teacher, how do I get into a student's world? If I'm a parent, how do I get into my child's world? Because I think it's important to understand a learner's or a child's mentality rather than pushing things from our perspective or from our experience. You have given many examples along with a transcript of a conversation between a parent and a child as well. So could you throw light on how do we get into a learner's mindset?
Sure, Bhaskar. I would like to share two examples. First of all, I would like to repeat, I have mentioned it earlier. See, all of us use five different modes to communicate to ourselves and to the other world. So I am talking about five senses here. The pancha indriya. There are some people who like to see, some people like to hear, some people like to feel, some people like to smell and taste. In the sense, all of us use all the five senses, but some people use one or two sense predominantly. Now similarly, the students in your class, out of 40 students or 50 students in the class, some students would like to see and learn. That would be their strategies. And some of them, in addition to seeing or minus seeing, they would like to only hear you. No, I don't want to see what the teacher is writing in the board. I would just like to hear her. That would be better. So they just close, they pay attention to you. While some of them, in addition to that, like to work. They keep a paper and pen. They have to solve a problem to learn. So you have to find out in your class how many students learn through seeing, how many students learn through hearing, how many students learn through feeling. And of course, the rest of the two senses, well, I have to tell you that some of the students are high on olfactory. They get put off with teachers who smell bad, or they don't feel, they have a fear to come in front of teachers because they smell bad. So these are certain techniques in depth I have given. So I thought, let me give that. That is one, number one. And number two, when some students do not get the right marks or they are not able to perform well, enter into a conversation with them. So I had a conversation with one child. So this person said, well, I cannot complete this work here. I cannot complete this work here. So this is one statement. So as a parent or as a teacher, here listen to which word the student emphasizes. Let me give an example. I cannot complete this work here. That means the emphasis on I. That means I cannot complete, somebody else can complete. That means this person has a problem with identifying himself or herself in the right way. Or the other person will say, I cannot complete this work. So it talks about capability, right? The person may have the right intention, but the person may not be capable of doing it. Maybe that person has the student has a capability problem there. Or other person say, I cannot complete this work here. I can start, but I cannot complete. So this person has a challenge in either the belief. See, a lot of students have a belief system. Similarly, parents and teachers also have belief system. All of us have a belief system. But these belief systems should not limit our progress. Suppose you believe in something, that belief in something should actually help you to progress. So that takes you to the belief level. So you will know that this student's belief level may have to be modified or changed for better. Now, if the student says, I cannot complete this work here, perhaps it is a value system. No, I can complete that work. I cannot complete this because this is something which I am not supposed to do. So you have to find out which word the student is laying emphasis on. Now, I cannot complete this work here. If the emphasis on here, I can complete this work at home, but not here. Or I cannot complete this work at home, but here. So there are certain environmental factors that affect us. So you might have heard people saying, oh, I was in the right place at the right time at the right people. I don't know whether it is people have this, they talk about law of karma or prarabdha karma or the place or something. We don't know. But that again has a connection with belief and environment. So What I would suggest is, as a parent, as a teacher, when you are conversing with your child, whenever they have an address problem, listen to the word that he or she laying emphasis on. That is a clue. Then you build on that.
Wow, great. Thank you, Vish. And I would like to take a question from one of the audience, Dr. Gaurav Maske. He is a dentist by profession, and he finished his postgraduate diploma in public health, Auckland University, and then he dedicated his life to community service. So Gaurav is asking, fear being objective and anxiety being subjective, how to get a better approach to tame them both?
Oh, thanks a lot, doctor, and welcome. It's an honor to have you as a participant. Oh, that is a very powerful question you ask. Fear being objective and anxiety being subjective, how to get a better approach to tame them both? Okay, so let me ask you a question here. So, we don't know whether the fear is being objective or subjective. As I mentioned to you, fear is nothing but a false evidence appearing real. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to show your finger in the gas stove, it will burn. Just because you are standing in a sixth floor and you jump, saying that fear is false evidence appearing real, you can't jump. That's the reality. Now, we don't know whether this fear is objective or subjective. So, most of the time, the fear is an imagined fear and it is subjective. And that again leads to anxiety, which you have rightly said it is subjective. So, how to get a better approach to tame them both? Ask questions. So, the most powerful tool is to ask the question, what makes you fear XYZ? This. Find out the person's experience. There will be some experience because of which he or she is fearful of something. Find out their experience. So once you find out the experience, you will know that because of reason one, two, three, this person has this fear. And then find out whether that is objective or subjective. Then that leads to anxiety. See, anxiety is nothing but a state of mind. I'm sure as a medical professional, you would also know a lot of people have this anxiety disorder that again leads to stress. This could also be, you are the right person to answer. It could also be due to a medical condition. So you may want to check that out.
Absolutely. So, neuroscience has uncovered many such new information. What kind of chemical is leading to what kind of reaction and response system? How parasympathetic nervous system and sympathetic nervous system work in tandem? What kind of chemicals, when released, will save us from any untoward incident? Or how I can unconsciously save myself from danger by some involuntary actions. For example, if there is a fly coming right at my face and trying to attack my eyes, my hands go instinctively without even brain getting involved in the decision making process. Similarly, when I see a rope kind of a material on the floor, my reaction would be immediate to see whether it is a snake or a rope. Before even my brain registers that message, my body would
Absolutely.
react, and palpitation will increase. I'll start having increased heartbeat, and blood flows into all my extremes, ready for my legs to carry me as fast as I can. And more and more such instances I can share how neuroscience has helped us to learn about these defense mechanisms. While these are threats from outside, what Dr. Gaurav, your question triggered me is many of these triggers are internal. Anxiety, fear, when we say objective and subjective, sometimes we imagine things which are not there out in real world. So, Vish, your book, you talk about simple techniques that one can apply to come out of such, false evidences, I should say. And there is one transcript of a conversation that you have published, which is very extremely insightful conversation. Would you like to share something about uh, how this transcript idea came in, and how this can be helpful for people in real life?
Sure, Bhaskar. Of course, the transcript idea, you are talking about the coaching transcript, right? Yeah, so
Yes.
the coaching transcript idea came, well, long back from two areas. One is, of course, I'm also a coach. So a coach is a person who doesn't tell, he basically asks. So since most of us keep telling, so it would be always better to ask. So the transcript idea came when I was mentioning to you earlier that when a child or when your coachee has a challenge, every human being will have a solution within themselves. Suppose I have a problem, I don't have to go outside for a solution. I have the solution with me, within me. But I don't know that I have a solution. But I need somebody else to help me. So that is a coaching technique. So I thought let us use some transcript and use a coaching terminology in helping a child, a student in coming out with their challenges. The second one, it is from our ancient, our own scriptures and the Vedas. Like we have a story in Ramayana where Lord Hanuman forgot his strength. So he has terrific strength, right? He can jump the ocean, he can jump the sea, and then fly. But he forgot for whatever reason. So somebody else had to tell him that, hey, you have the ability to fly, you have the ability to grow. So we always need somebody else to do it. Now the way it was put, even in the text, if you see, they didn't say that you can do it. They were asking questions. Did you not, when you were a child, did you not go and fly and then wanted to eat the sun? Did you not do it? So, as he was listening to the question, the answers came from within. Similar thing happens even in Bhagavad Gita. So, the entire Gita, it's no preaching. It is not preaching. The Krishna never preached. He was only asking questions. And we have many Upanishads. One of the Upanishads was Prashno Upanishads and Keno Upanishads. It talks only about question. Enquire, enquire, enquire more. So, as parent and as a teacher, if you can use those inquiry and then form a script, you can form a script. So, you can read the script in the book, and from there you can develop your own script. Though I have mentioned it, you can always improvise. After reading it, you can improvise and make your own script. So that is how I got the idea, Bhaskar. So become a coach to your child, to your student, rather than tell him or her what he needs to do.
Absolutely. And they are the masters of their own lives. Unless until there is a gap in their understanding or knowledge, if there is a gap between knowing and doing, these techniques really help, Vish. In fact, you have illustrated many examples for teachers, parents, trainers, and facilitators and coaches, where they could use these techniques and how they could benefit by having a sustainable behavioral change approach and make learning fun the way that they are learning.
Yeah, I just want to add. See, most of us know that there is a quote, old quote saying, I would say old jungle saying. It says, "Child is the father of man." They are
Yes.
masters. So we don't have to tell. We have to just ask questions, be a coach, bring their own inner power outside and tell them that, hey, you have the power, you have the solution. So we only have to act as a facilitator. As teachers and parents, we need to act as facilitators and not teacher. And well, I remember this quote which was told to me by my guru. He says, a dedicated teacher preaches. A
Hmm.
very dedicated teacher preaches. A talented teacher teaches. but a successful teacher reaches.
Arey
So
wah.
our aim is
Nice.
to reach the students.
And how do we flip the entire equation from teaching syllabus coverage to ensuring no child is left behind and there is learning happening in the class? Yeah, very well said. Uh, a
Absolutely.
successful.
In fact, when you said no child is left behind, well, Albert Einstein and APJ Abdul Kalam are examples, right? We were discussing the other day. So these
Yes,
two were almost they were left behind.
true, true. There are some questions and comments on the chat window. Before I go there, I just want to uh, bring attention to all the illustrations you have in your book. A lot of these drawings that you have go very well with the text, right? So
Yeah.
you want to share something about where did this idea come from? And
Yeah, sure. As I mentioned to you, like there are some people who like to see and then learn. So I thought we need to have the illustration. But rather than getting some picture from Google or so, I thought let us create our own illustration. And thanks to my good friend and old classmate of class of 80, schoolmate, Shubha, I should thank her for the beautiful illustration. So she took some lot of interest in reading the entire script. We had several discussion before we narrowed down to illustration for each. So a lot of things went in. We changed many illustration. That is how we got this illustration. Because
nice, nice.
in addition to one picture is equal to 1,000 words, that's the old saying. So we thought let us have some illustration in addition to. Yes, that's right. Mr. Vinod Kumar also mentioned picture speaks 1,000 words.
So there is a question from Mr. Venkateshwar: how to modulate one's attitude so as to bring a positive influence over a child?
Wow, that's a wonderful question. It will take many hours to answer. So what we have done is in the book we have given some quiz and some situations on different attitude part. But of course, to answer your question, we have to ask ourselves and maybe to ask ourselves whether we are reacting to a situation or whether we are responding to a situation. There is a difference between reaction and response. Reaction is immediate reaction, like when you take a matchbox and a matchstick, you scratch, it reacts. Respond is again take a matchbox and a matchstick, think what will happen. So that is an extra time you have to give. So it becomes reaction to response. That is a simple answer to your question. Of course, it takes some time. Over a period of time, we have to modulate this attitude. Similar
And
to
Vish,
the exercise that we did from the closed arms to changing of that.
yeah, and in your book, Vish, you also
Thanks,
talk about.
Mr. Venkateshwar, for asking this question.
Yes, Wish to add to what you mentioned. There is also, elaboration about meaning of my communication is the response I get. Would you like to talk about that as well?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. The meaning of my communication is the response I get. Basically, refers to, say, suppose I'm talking to you, or I'm talking to anyone. In case they have understood, that means I have reached them. In case I didn't get the right response, doesn't mean that they may have understood or they might not have understood. There could be a flaw in my communication.
Hmm.
For example, in a class, a teacher is teaching for about 45 minutes. Some students understand, some students don't understand. Why? Is it because they found it difficult? Not necessarily. Maybe you will have to modify your teaching to reach that child. So that is why the meaning of your communication depends on the response you get. Out of 40 students, 20 students respond in different way, 20 students respond in a different X way. So you get a feedback that, hey, you will have to change your approach. That is the feedback. That's the meaning of your communication. Every single class, every single conversation, we have to remember as parents, as teachers, as a coach, as a trainers, as a facilitators, whether we are getting the meaning of our communication.
Absolutely. And like many leaders who have uncovered their own personal side, stronger note, like Satya Nadella of Microsoft. He is also a parent of a special child, and he talks about that in his book, how the entire family, including he and his wife, uh, try to learn more about the situation and how they could change the way they are parenting, right? And Wish, I know you personally. You also shared about your personal experience of being a parent of a special child, and many of these references that you are making come and stem out of your personal experience of transformation that you have gone through as a parent. So I think that would deeply resonate with our audience here. You have done a great service by sharing the nuggets from your personal wisdom, not necessarily a book which can be read or which need to be read from cover to cover in one sitting, but a asset in everyone's library. Whenever there is a valley of despair, like a curve where people talk about, when I'm learning something over a period of time, there comes a point where I go to the bottom of the valley, where I don't know what to do next. How will my next inspiration, or where will I next my next inspiration will come from, and how will I come out of this situation? Then a ray of hope appears, and insight occurs, and then there is a steep learning curve riding me out of that valley. So this book is one such book, where whenever we hit a rock bottom in our learning journey, we just feel energized, rejuvenated when we apply some of these techniques. Thank you, Vish, for creating a compendium of such tools and techniques in such a short, sweet presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. In fact, of course, I am only a half parent. The credit also goes to my better half. So that
Yeah,
was also our experience. and
absolutely
and
right.
of course, it was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for inviting me. And I'm sure people who are listening and those who are going to listen later on would benefit by getting a copy of this book. As Bhaskar mentioned, it is a simple tip. It's a handbook. Anytime, anywhere, you can just open any page, you will get an answer.
Yes. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Really appreciate your time on a Saturday evening. Wish you all the best, and look forward to a wonderful year ahead. There are many more sessions planned and coming up. Please do subscribe for more such sessions. Thank you,
Yeah.
everyone. Bye
Thanks a
bye.
lot. Namaste and Happy New Year to all of you uh, in advance.
Thank you.